Hello, this is Helen Lindley and welcome to In the Roud.
Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. This is In the Roud, a folk song podcast, and I am your host, Matt Quinn. Join me as we travel through the world of traditional folk song, one song per episode in the order they appear in the Roud Index. Each episode normally features two guests, one providing an historical look at the song, while the other will be a singer from the folk music scene to talk about their own version of the song. This podcast is proud to be partly sponsored by the Traditional Song Forum. Meeting regularly both in person and online, the TSF provides a place for a variety of topics related to folk song, song collectors, singers and many other aspects of folk song research to be presented and discussed. It's free to join and most meetings are free to attend. So discover more about the TSF at www.tradsong.org. That's www.tradsong.org. So let's get going. This week's song is Roud 65, Child Ballad 101. That's the song called Willie of Douglas Dale. We're back to another child ballad which is pretty unheard of now. Pretty much nothing on the folk revival modern recording side of things apart from the version today, and not a lot to talk about in terms of the history either, but there's always things to discuss, and so for this one I've brought back my regular unknown child ballad enthusiast, Helen Lindley. Well, hello and welcome back to In the Roud. Helen Lindley, hello.
Hi Matt, and how are you this
Hello.
Sunny morning?
I'm doing more or less okay. A little overwhelmed with a few things, but nothing that need concern the podcast audience. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. My daughter's gone off to do her DV expedition this morning in this what is currently rather warm, but she's looking forward to it. So I dropped her and have now come back to do this and talk to you.
There we go. Yes, it's going to be at, well, where I am on the day of recording this, which is the 8th of January. It's going to be 29 degrees as the highest, and then 30 tomorrow, 31 on Friday, and a positively Arctic 23 next Monday.
Yes, and it is July, not January.
Did I say January? And that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is the state of my mind at the moment. Well, we're not here to do the state of my mind. We're here to talk about Willie of Douglas Dale. Good to have you back, Helen. You were here 3 weeks ago for Brown Robin. And Willie Douglas, that was Roud 62, and here we are with 65. Willie of Douglas Dale, child number 101. With not all of them, but we have passed the 100 mark in terms of child, even though we haven't covered them all because Steve Roud didn't index them all at first. But no matter. Where do we stand with Willie of Douglas Dale? Give us a plot summary.
Well, it's one of those things that another one of those songs that fell out of use, and so I think because it had a bit of a strong female character in it, and they, as I said before, they always seem to disappear and not have been sung. But basically, the king's daughter has fallen in love with someone she wouldn't. Same old tale. She's pregnant by him. They escape, elope, and the guy in this unusually seems to have some land because he's a lord in Scotland, and so then they elope and run off with the child that they've got. So, in a nutshell, it's one of those elopement ballads, really.
Right. Does it have a happy ending, or does everything end in misery?
Yeah. No, he makes her a lady. Willie makes her a lady of his domain. So he's obviously got money and land, but she still does the thing that she did in Brown Robin, where she chucks some money over the castle wall. I imagine her riches so that they could escape together and not live in, or so they could live in a life of luxury, I think.
Right.
They did attract a maid to help them out as well, who also came to live with them and be the sort of nursemaid for the child.
Ah, yes.
But yeah, it's another one of these that's quite long. And originally, this is one of the ones that I wrote for Sing Yonder that Carl Sinfield said, "Can you do something with this?" And I did. So the version that I came up with is actually the one that's in the book for anybody that has the Sing Yonder books.
I've just noticed it is long. We've got three versions in Child. Version A, the Mrs. Brown of Falkland version, obviously, is 30 verses, is 32 verses. Version B from the Buchan manuscript, but is 30 verses, but you have to take Buchan with a pinch of salt. And version C from the Kinloch manuscript is 19, but there are some omissions.
And then there's version D, that's 29 verses.
Oh, is that in an appendix somewhere? I keep forgetting about the appendixes.
Yes, there's yeah. I know that I pulled four versions together
Right.
to make it into one specific song.
Yeah. I keep forgetting about it's one thing I'm not very good at is remembering to look at all the appendixes in Child to see if any other versions were found. But nevertheless, four, and they're all of similar length. And I guess having mentioned Mrs. Brown of Falkland, do I assume that that's the earliest version? Again, a bit like Brown Robin. So sort of
Yeah,
late 18th century.
yeah, they're all. I mean, they're all very much of that sort of era that they come through. Um, I think that I mean there are certain researches about how this could be linked with an earlier song, and this one is from the woman's point of view. But yeah, certainly, we're talking another sort of 19th century jobby.
Yeah. So I think the Anna Gordon, Mrs. Brown stuff was 1780s, 1780s, I think, and 1790s. So we're talking about that kind of period again, aren't we?
Yeah, let's face it, most of them are, aren't they?
Well, yeah, although there's
There is the odd one or two, but
some that go back earlier, but yeah, it's that sort of thing. And certainly in the Roud Index, not much in the way of entries. I mean, not the least amount of entries, or the fewest amount of entries. But there are 22 entries in the Folksong Index and a total of 0 in the Broadside Index. So not a song found in print, as it were, apart from printing of oral versions, but in terms of not found in broadsides and broadsheets, that sort of thing. But 22 entries, which actually goes down to 19 books and 3 online indexes. So if you get rid of the traditional ballad index entry and the search subject index entry, you're left with 19 entries, 3 of which are in Child, 2 of which are in Bronson, and the rest are just reprintings of the 3 Child versions. So
yeah.
that really is all there is to go. And in terms of country, it doesn't appear to have spread. It's of those 19 entries on the Roud Index, 18 for Scotland and 1 for the USA and Canada. But the USA and Canada entry of Wheeler's Dale is in a book by Coffin, British Trad Ballads in North America in 1977, and it's just a reference only, rather than there's no text for the song in it. It's just a reference.
Yeah, there is another book actually, which David Fowler, who was an English lecturer in Washington,
Oh,
he had a folk music course, which was a viewer's guide to folk balladry. And there is on Internet Archive, you can actually get the text for this book, which is what I've pulled up. And the link is thanks to all the hard work that Carl did when he did the Sing Yonder stuff. And that's where this idea comes from, that it's actually the ballad itself does have certain links with Child Waters, Round 43.
oh yes, season 5, episode 3 with
Exactly.
Judy Cook.
but but yeah, it comes from more from the woman's perspective and isn't quite as there aren't the penalties and the sort of punishments that there are in Child Waters. So this song is a whole lot nicer, if you like.
Yeah,
She's in charge, and he just seems to be a nice chap and sticks to his word and runs off with her.
well, there we
Interestingly,
go.
some of the names. I mean, some of the because this is about the Earl of Douglas, and there is Earl of Douglas and Dame Oliphant, who were actually people who existed. But it's highly unlikely that there's anything to do with the song whatsoever. But as we know, they plucked historical characters, didn't they, for a lot of these songs, pretty much like we would today.
Indeed. But yeah, so that David Fowler is just a almost more of a sort of just a theory rather than any sort of, not that we ever have concrete proof of anything in what we're dealing with these songs, but it's just this one guy's opinion. But it's not bad though. I do quite like the idea that there might just be a reworking of Child Waters, a different point of view. But yeah, apart from that book in America that's got just a reference to the song being collected somewhere, which I haven't read, so I don't know anything about. Yeah, it's all Scotland, so basically hasn't travelled as far as we can tell.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, and it's all happy. I don't
Yeah,
really.
it's
Have you got anything to talk about? I don't really know.
yeah. Well, no, there is.
My stopwatch says 10 minutes. So have we got anything more you want to talk about with this one?
Well, the interesting thing with this particular one, other than the fact that it's another one where she supplies the money, but obviously he doesn't need the money because
He is
he
a
already has
lord.
lands of his own.
He is a lord.
He is a lord. But so I'm assuming that's her personal wealth that she wants to bring with her. But what is interesting is there are several descriptions within the song in the full versions. The version I did had to be cut down because it had to fit on a page of Sing Yonder.
Yeah.
So I was under quite strict instructions on how long the song could be,
Yes.
which meant cutting out a lot of stuff. But just to keep the essence of the story and make a singable song. But what's really interesting is there is a description of him fetching things for her while she's very obviously in labour. But there seems to be this thing of, he's disappeared looking for this stuff while she's giving birth. And there's one of the things that the David Fowler book touches on is this thing that, women did give birth on their own.
Right. Yes.
Or rather, with other women, it wasn't a thing that men were meant to be around for. Certainly not in landed circles. So yes, he makes her a nice bed out of some leaves, and I'm very grateful she was too. But yeah, it does seem to be that she's not there complaining about anything. So she's very much obviously a driver within this, which is why it piqued my interest, obviously. And I did end up publishing this one because this one is on the EP that I did on sort of strong women in folk songs. But yeah, I like there's a little bit in it that I particularly like where they found a maid feeding sheep nearby and asked her if she would come and be a nursemaid, and she recognised Dame Oliphant and said, "Yeah, you're the queen, you're the king's daughter." And said, "Yeah, but do you want to come to Scotland with us?" And she said, "Yeah, okay." And I just thought, I suppose going and living, looking after lord and lady's child was probably a better life than being a shepherdess, basically. So it is a very simplified, idea that, and certainly that nobody was going to come and look for them or anything like that. But we find that, don't we, in the folk song? If they want a happy ending, we leap to the happy ending a lot of the time.
Or at least, yeah, or we at least comment often on the lack of happy ending.
Yeah, well, that's it. It goes one way or the other, doesn't it? It has an unreasonably happy ending, and that wouldn't have been achievable, especially if it was the king's daughter. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so I mean, so it was it's nice to have those songs, I think, in the repertoire where they're either not somebody's dead, Does that make it a folk song if nobody dies, as the question goes? But
Indeed.
it's very much that thing of yeah, she's taken the lead. She's pregnant. She's jumped over a castle wall while pregnant, which is having had two children. I don't know how she did that. Yes, he's caught her, which is another good thing. And yeah, they've gone to the woods. And the only thing that he didn't do what she asked him to when she was very obviously in labour. She's obviously. I didn't actually add it in the song because there was no space within the confines of what I'd been asked to do. But he had she'd asked for, oh, sound your horn so that the king's men will come and find me, and then I can get some help. And he said, well, no, if we do that, then that's it. We're not going to be able to elope.
Right.
So he obviously goes off and tries to do whatever he can to help. And then he goes and collects some herbs, and they're the ones that are meant to help labour. But she does have the baby, and yeah, off they go. So, it is, an unduly happy song, basically. But we have them, don't we? And as you say, there's not a lot. There's not a lot in it other than this little story of a couple eloping, really, and having a baby.
Indeed. I mean, we've got the names. We've got, Willie of Douglas Dale. Douglas Dale is look this up. Douglas Dale refers to, it's the valley in which you find Douglas Water in Lanarkshire in Scotland.
Yeah, that's what we discovered. It was, it does, there is this village, but there was a castle there, I think, as well. But yeah, there's, we never assume in a folk song that there's anything in the people or the location.
No, they could be changed around for whatever reason and created.
And it might just be somebody was, you're looking for, oh yeah, we'll pin it on that location or that name. And we know that's what tends to happen. It's very rare that there's anything in the song about, there might have been a hint of a controversy over a pregnancy at some point, I'm assuming, on which which would not have been unusual, and it's probably what the whole idea has been pinned on. But we can't find that. I think it was Buchan did say, "Oh, I haven't found any evidence that one of the Douglases did marry the daughter of any king of England." So, or certainly with the name Oliphant. So there was a Dame Oliphant. But that was a concubine, I think, of King James. So again,
yeah.
So some of these names, I just think existed.
Indeed,
there were historical characters with these names.
The Oliphant was a Scottish clan.
Yeah, it was.
Is still a Scottish clan. Theories that they were French origin, which should line up nicely with the fact that the clan Oliphant's motto is in French.
Yes.
Tout pour voir, how wise of me not to attempt the accent, which means provide for all. And yeah, there's if we're going to go into the stuff, apologies for my Wikipedia knowledge on this stuff, Wikipedia level knowledge of this stuff, but earliest member of this clan is known to be Roger Olifard, sometime around 1093 and 1100. So yeah, it sort of goes back quite a way. And if you want to look up, there's a Clan Oliphant Wikipedia page which tells you everything you wanted to know and didn't know you wanted to know about the Clan Oliphant throughout the ages.
Yes, I think I used that when I originally did the song, to be honest. But then I realised it wasn't really relevant, so I didn't need to have done that.
Indeed. All the way up to the clan chief, Richard Eric Lawrence Oliphant, decreed on 12th of June 2003, chief of the name and arms of Oliphant, by the Lord Lion, King of Arms, and as heir male of the first Lord Oliphant. Thus, to all three creations of Lord Oliphant, including those of the second creation, blah, blah, blah. If any Oliphants are listening, apologise for being a bit flippant about this. There's a lot of dense information that isn't really relevant. And Oliphants have a tartan as well. It's a sort of blue and green thing with a lot of squares in it. If you like that, if you're interested in that sort of thing. But again, how it could just be a name used for this one. You can tell we're already grasping at real sort of straws, thin straws with this one.
Yeah. I mean, when I came to write it, that was quite interesting because this was the first one that Carl had asked me to do.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, of course. So your
Um,
editing process for this one.
yeah, it was this underwent a different process to that which I normally use when I'm doing folk song because normally I'm led by the story and I go through it and pull it together and it ends where it ends at the point that it needs to end. But with this, I had to cut a lot more out than I normally would, just to fit it in.
Yes,
And that's
I had that problem with because I did one for Carl as well.
yes,
Which will be in the next season. It'll be season episode 2 of the season 8 when we come to that in October. Where I will have to be the singing guest because I'm the only person that's ever sung it. But yeah, so I had that thing as well. Get it down to what at maximum like 19 verses or something,
yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that.
that's so as I say, the process was very different, and the end result was very different. It was a lot more simplified, but there again, sometimes that's a healthy way to be able to run or to go through a song. Sometimes we probably when we're working through these verses, sometimes because there are so many verses and we cut a load and we think, oh, maybe I shouldn't cut too many, but you realise that the essence of the story sometimes is very simple and doesn't actually
Yes.
need as much saying about it.
Apart from when we come to the final episode of this season, when
Oh yes, well
I've
that's a different
instructed
thing.
you not to cut huge swathes out.
Yeah, and that's quite fun as well. I mean,
Yeah,
because a
yeah,
lot of the songs we sing, and there have been some that we've done in this. I think Hind Etin might have been one, and Kempy K was probably another, where there wasn't a huge amount we had to cut
that's right.
because the versions were not particularly long and the stories were simple. But this one, I did leave out all the mentions of herbs and the things he gathered, and because something had to go to keep the essence of the story that she was pregnant and she eloped, and they had a child, and they
Yeah,
then went up to Scotland. So in order to keep that narrative, which were the really important points of the story, what herbs he collected and him blowing his horn were not necessarily vital to the story in that situation.
indeed, indeed.
And that's what you do when you're commissioned for something. You go through a different process, don't you? Whoever has commissioned it has the final say in how it's going to work, and you fit with that. Whereas when I'm doing it for myself, it's I can add extra bits in or leave other bits out, which is what I tend to do.
Indeed.
The tune I did not because I'd had to make so many alterations. The tune is not one that I particularly sort of had any love for, and because I'd made so many changes, it was like, no, we'll come up with a whole new tune,
That's fair. I
which
mean, yes.
also is what I was commissioned to do, is come up with a whole new tune.
Oh, there we go. Yes, I mentioned Bronson has 2 tunes. One is the Mrs. Brown of Falkland one, copied by Joseph Ritson around 1792 to 1794. And then there's the 1881 one in the Christie manuscript from Aberdeenshire. I did have a go at these earlier. We've got a conjectural reading for the Mrs. Brown one. I think there's the manuscript reading. There's the manuscript reading and then a conjectural timing. So they've had a go at working out what it actually should have been or what it might have been. So I'll attempt to do a couple of verses of Mrs. Brown had Willie O'Douglasdale. Willie was a braver lord as ever sailed on the sea, and he's gone to the English court to serve for meat and fee. He had not been at the king's court A 12-month and a day, till he'd longed for a sight of the king's daughter, but her he could never see. It's okay, I think. It's
Yeah, it's one.
acceptable, but
Yeah, I think when you've got awkward intervals, it's like let's not.
some odd intervals,
For
and then some of the lines don't have enough syllables for the notes, or other way
yeah,
around. If you want to, if you probably the other way around, but there's too many notes written out. But as we think, sometimes some of these ornaments, right, might have been written out as notes rather than as ornaments,
yeah, that's it.
and
And
so
not
that
only
sort of
that,
thing.
I mean, I use that idea that I couldn't get the notes to fit. Um, the other way round, where I put a longer line in order to almost exacerbate that issue.
Right?
Because I do that in quite a few songs, actually. When you're singing a ballad of so many verses, sometimes it can get a bit tedious, can't it? Dum 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 dum, and it goes on. And so
Yeah,
sometimes it's nice to have like the penultimate verse, penultimate line in a verse have a longer line.
yeah. There's
I
that. And I
quite like
remember
doing that.
John Bowden talking this on last season when we did the Child Morris episode. He's always a fan of putting a two-part tune to a ballad. So you've got an A and a B part with
Yeah,
different half of the melodies, and then the
yeah,
verses can become 8 lines rather than 4 lines, but with different
yeah,
tunes. And it makes it, as a listening experience, it makes it, from a modern folk singing performance perspective, it makes it more palatable on a
yeah.
listening level.
I mean, I do. I've done that I think virtually every song. I think there's a couple I've probably done a full on if they've been short. If you're only dealing with sort of 12 verses, it's not a problem. But if you're and you can then use that to add ornament and whatever you want, to make it interesting. But when you're talking a longer ballad, every time I've done that, I think it's just. But I do like this idea of then making, I say the penultimate line just a little bit longer, because
Yeah,
you can do that it's a lot easier to do that when you sing unaccompanied,
indeed, you can do that sort of thing.
because you can alter that pace, which is one of the reasons I really like unaccompanied singing. I know it feels some people with horror, but I love that feeling of being able to take longer on that line or hold that note longer or make a whole line longer without having musicians around you staring, what the hell's she doing? So some, I mean, I sing in our local pub quite a lot, and sometimes that's accompanied, and I've got so used to singing unaccompanied that sometimes I think, oh God, I've got to wait, or I've got to move on because they're going to come in a minute. So
Yeah,
yeah, there is that lovely freedom you get with an unaccompanied song, where you can just carry on a note or a verse or a line,
indeed so. Indeed so. And
which is what
then
I did in this.
yeah, and then version 2 in Bronson, from the Christie manuscript, the Earl of Douglas and Dame Oliphant. Starts
Yes.
off sort of the same. You've got ba da 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 as like the opening bit, which obviously is similar to the previous one, and then it
You
will
can
be.
also hear a little bit of that version in what I you can there's almost a hint of the inspiration of the version I came up with in that one.
So in both of these tunes, both of these melodies, there's a flattened. It's all. It's quite a limited thing. It's the full 6 note scale. I say full 6 note scale. It's a 6 note tune with in each tune there's one flattened seventh note. If people want to go in that first tune, you got da 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 hum da 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 ya da 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 da. You got one higher flattened seventh there,
Yeah,
and in this one you got if it were in the same key, you got the same flattened seventh, but it's the octave lower and it's a different point of the tune. It's in
yeah,
the second. It's at the end of the second line rather than in the beginning of the third line.
yeah,
Because here
that's
we've
it.
got da dum da 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 da, that flattened seventh there, and then ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da da. So you got this. It almost feels like, I mean, it's so fleeting that you could almost get away with just not bothering with
Yeah,
it.
Which I did when I was on, because I always play the tunes through on the piano first, and and that's what I thought. It felt like it didn't need it.
Indeed, but in fairness to Bronson, and in terms of giving you what the tune is in Bronson, I'll include it now. So
Yes.
so with the words we've got. Young Willie was an earl's old son, an earl's a son was he, and he is on to fair England to serve for meat and fee. And there is a second half melody that I think Christie or Buchan might have come up with, and I'm going to ignore it
Yes.
because we don't like that sort of thing. But the second verse is provided so. But it was not for meat and fee that Willie hired him there, but for his love to Oliphant of beauty bright and rare. Apart from that rogue flat and seventh, I quite like that melody.
Yeah, I mean, and I probably would have used it had I not been commissioned to come up with a new tune.
Well, there we go, indeed. And that's basically it. Two
Yeah,
tunes in Bronson, three in Child. Not much to say about it. There is absolutely zilch on the traditional recording side of things. There's no
yeah,
field recordings of this whatsoever, and almost entirely zilch on the folk revival, apart from Your Good Self
yeah,
doing it for the Sing Yonder books, and on the EP that is available on Bandcamp, and the recording that will be turning up in a few minutes' time on this podcast episode.
yeah. That's right. And I think the version that I've done is also on mainly Norfolk now as well.
There you go. You've got a mainly Norfolk page all to yourself, all to yourself, and the words are there as well.
I think, as I say, it's as you say, the tune was fine, apart from those flattens. But it's I say I was told, right, come up with the tune and condense this song down, which is what I did. And I did sing it when I first did it, which was about 2 years ago now. I did sing it quite a bit, but I've done so many now that I rarely sing it. And maybe I should. Maybe I should just bring all the ones I used to do back a bit more, actually, for singing.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's it. There's nothing else really, is there? It's a simple little song, and
I think we'll leave things there. Shortest podcast episode ever, maybe. Who knows? We'll see what next week's one brings as well.
oh yeah, we've got Tom Potts next week, and I'm the only
'cause
one who's ever done that as
you,
well.
it's same as today. You're the only one who's ever done that one. So, we'll leave things there. I mean, it's quite a neat little song, and with these in terms of old child ballads with a happy ending and things happen, but it's just for whatever reason people haven't sort of pounced upon this one.
Yeah, I still maintain it's where they've got a stronger woman character is the ones that they tend not to like that in the Victorian era.
They love men being awful to women, don't they?
Yeah, and yeah, the ones where the women have acted out of character, especially landed women. They seem to not pick up on those songs. They haven't carried on singing them. Obviously, there is you'll notice how many of them are coming from Scotland, which of course their system was not quite so strict on women as it was slightly more rebellious, obviously, than the English system was. So I do like finding these songs and realizing, oh yeah, she's in charge here again. And yeah, that's what I can see why they would suggest this was written from a woman's point of view, or um, because she probably wouldn't write it unless he'd been really horrid, which he is in Child Waters.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's it. Just makes it I say it gives in the modern world we tend to like those sorts of songs, don't we? The
Indeed.
Victorians didn't want too many women being strong characters.
No, can't have
Wear
that.
your bustle and keep quiet.
And interestingly, Child, I've just glanced over Child's notes for this. It refers to the fact that the first half, the first part of this story, the birth of the boy, is effectively is then repeated immediately in the next Child ballad, which we are not covering on the podcast forever.
Yes.
because child 102 is Willie and Earl Richard's daughter, which is a better mystery title because Spies and Bowden used to perform this, still do, under the spoilerific title "The Birth of Robin Hood."
Yes.
But it's not one of the Robin Hood ballads.
No,
It's
and that is interesting because there were quite a few. I remember, I think I said that to John Bowden at one of the folk gigs, or one of the Royal Trads events that I was at, how the similarities with some of these songs to Robin Hood ballads, but without mentioning Robin Hood,
yeah.
is really I find that really interesting.
But then this does because and that's why I remember when John and John first started performing this song. I remember seeing a very early gig where they performed it, and they never said. They said, "We'll tell you what it's called after we've sung it," because it gives away the ending. Because you've got
Yeah.
this story about Willie and Earl Richard's daughter and having the baby, and it's almost a bit Willie of Winsbury actually, because she gives birth to the baby boy in the wood, and then the king comes down, her father comes down. I'm telling you the plot of this, everyone, because it may be Child 102, but it's Roud 3910, and
You're not giving away any
not
spoilers,
in
are you?
50 years will I get to that song. And so the king comes down and says, you know what? I think it's something to do with the king thinks that she's run off with a young man or something, but he turns up to find that she's given birth, and he says, you know, uh, oh, what does she say? I'm going by
Yeah, it's
the
something like, yeah, you can say what you like, you do what you like with me, but this is your grandson. That's something along those lines, isn't it? They all merge into
yeah
one after a
Earl
while, don't
Richard.
they?
Sorry, the king, not the king. Earl Richard says, he has she. Let's go through the plot of this one briefly. You got, Willie has gone to serve Earl Richard. He falls in love with Richard's daughter, and they meet in the garden all alone. And she says, "If my father finds out, he would hang you over that wall." She says, "But come to my bower, Willie, just as the sun goes down, and catch me in your two strong arms, and let's have a fabulous time." And
Yes.
and then and the next day, Earl Richard wakes from his drowsy sleep, and he dreamed that she was drowning in the flood, his daughter. And he called his servant man and said, what's become of my daughter? Has she been stolen away?" And they search for her. I mean, it appears they've spent one night together, and the next day she's been found nursing her son in the woods.
Yes.
But it does say they searched east and they searched west and they searched up and down. Maybe that's like 9 months worth of searching, but it should say 9 months. And then he's basically he finds them, takes the baby in his arms, and and still says, "Although I would your father hang, your mother is dear to me." And says, "My grandson I thee claim, and Robin Hood in the merry green wood, that shall be your name." And so, and then they'd finish the song, and then John would say that was called The Birth of Robin Hood. If you say that at the beginning, it gives away the plot.
Yeah, that's it. And this one is very similar.
Yeah, you've got the whole woman going into the woods and giving birth
Yeah.
thing, which is very close. So it may be the immediately next child ballad, 102, but it is Roud 3910. So I won't get to that in my lifetime.
And let's face it,
That's a
there's more
scary
than one song called Earl Richard's Daughter as well.
Indeed, there
Is
is.
because I think we've got Roud 105. I think that's one that another one of mine actually, that I did. And it's also known as the Kitschy Boy, which is child 250 something, 251, 252 maybe. And so that's nothing, entirely different story, but still called Earl Richard's Daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we
Yeah,
know how it all goes. They
child.
reuse all the
Yeah,
names.
child said. Yeah, the first part of the story is of this ballad, or down to the birth of the boy, is repeated in Willie of Earl Richard's Daughter, which immediately follows. And he says about it immediately follows. He says, "The first half of this story is that of Willie of Douglasdale, and there is a partial verbal correspondence. If you compare some of the lines, they're quite similar. In the latter, a shepherd's daughter is engaged as a nurse to the boy in the woods, and Dame Oliphant is taken home by her lover and maid, Lady Douglas Dale. In the present ballad, Willie Richard's daughter, the lady's father tracks his daughter to the woods, finds the newborn child, adopts him as his grandson, and gives him the name Robin Hood. For reasons. Okay, there we go. There are two versions. There are three versions in Child for... okay, this is off topic, but there are three versions of William Earl Richard's daughter in Child 102. The third one is two verses, and they are the last two stanzas of Willie of Douglas Dale. It even says that in version 3. It says, Kinloch manuscript, the last two stanzas of Douglas Dale. So I don't know why it's not in Douglas Dale, but the first two, the only two proper versions that Child found for 102 are both called The Birth of Robin Hood. But Child said, this ballad certainly does not belong to the cycle of Robin Hood, and for this reason, the title hitherto borne by it could not be retained. Child changed it to William Earl Richard's daughter because calling it Birth of Robin Hood is too confusing, considering there are 35 Robin Hood ballads and this is not one of them.
It's a way of getting us to cover it when we're dreading all the Robin Hood ballads, isn't it?
Well, we're not covering it. We're not
exactly.
The connection with Robin Hood was in all probability mediated by the name Brown Robin, Child says.
Yeah, I think sometimes he does tend to let his mind wander, doesn't he?
Brown Robin, he says, plays the part of Willie or Archibald in Rose, the Red and Lily, which is a different ballad. Brown Robin's son in Jill and Graham is called Robin, after Robin Hood. And Brown Robin carries off his love to the wood in the ballad of the same name.
Yeah, and also she throws the money over the wall. Of course, we've said this in both episodes now.
Yeah,
that Brown Robin and Willie of Douglas Dale have this commonality of throwing some money over the wall to reclaim it later. So and we've always had this issue, haven't we, of how many of these songs are actually linked? Because we put a lot of a lot of our trust in the Child ballads, but he was just another collector, and it's great that he did collect, but some of the links he makes or not within songs, there's quite a few times we say actually these are the same song or nearly the same song, but they've got different numbers.
Indeed. And so there are lots of similarities, but I said I wouldn't have dived into William Earl Richard's daughter so much if it was like a song I was covering in the next couple of years, but it's Roud. It's almost in the 4,000s, so you'll never hear it on the podcast. Maybe in the Patreon, who knows? But we'll stop there. As you said, those are the two tunes from Bronson for Willie Douglas Dale. But yeah, we'll stop there, and we will see you next week, in fact, for another unsung Child ballad.
Lovely. I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Willie was as brave a lord as ever sailed the sea, and he has gone to the English court to serve for meat and fee. He hadn't been at the king's court a 12-month and a day, till he longed for a sight of the king's daughter, but her he could never see. One day she's gone to the greenwood, Willie followed by moonlight. He bowed so low as by her he did go. She said, "What's your will, Sir Knight?" "Oh, I am not a knight, madam, nor ever wish to be. Oh, I am Willie of Douglas Dale, and I serve for meat and fee." She says, "I'll gang to my bow, and I'll pray both night and day, to keep me from your tempting looks and from your great beauty." But in a little after that he kept Dame Oliphant's bower, as the love that passed between these two, 'twas like a paramour. Oh, Willie, narrow is my gown that used to be so wide, and gone is my fair colour, and low laid is my pride. But when my father gets word of this, he'll never drink again, And when my brothers get word of this, I fear, Willie, you'll be slain. Oh, will you leave your father's court and go along with me? I'll carry you to fair Scotland and make you a lady free. She's put her hand in her pocket and gave him £500. And take you that now, Squire Willie, till away we do run. When day was gone and night was come, she's leapt the castle wall. But Willie caught his lady gay, he was loath to let her fall. He's made a fire for his love and a bed to lay her down. He's picked roses that grew beside and fetched water in his horn. He came back to his lady and a son to him she bore. He's taken his son and his lady fair, wrapped them to keep them warm. He met a maid a feeding sheep, said, will you come with me? And will you serve my dear lady? We'll give both meat and fee. She came before the lady fair, said, you're a dame I see. Yes, I'm Oliphant the king's daughter, will you come to Scotland with me? So the maid she held the bonny boy, and Willie's led his lady. And his maid a lady of Douglasdale, and the lord of the Dale was he.
That was Helen Lindley singing Willie of Douglasdale. And that brings us to the end of the episode. What did you think? What are your thoughts on this song? I reckon this one should be brought back. I think it's pretty good. If you'd like to get in touch with me, feel free to drop me an email at intheroud@singyonder.co.uk, or you can visit the podcast on various social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/intheroudpod. Our Instagram handle is at intheroudpod, and our Blue Sky handle is at intheroud. No pod. If you are enjoying the podcast, I would very much appreciate it if you would give us a little rating and review, and also hit the subscribe button or the like or whatever it is on whichever thing you're using, wherever you get your podcasts from. That really helps the podcast to reach a wider audience. Over on our Patreon, we have a new Collector Spotlight episode this week. I'll be joined by regular contributor Brian Peters to discuss the life and song collecting work of Cecil Sharp. If you feel so moved to support the podcast financially, then please do head on over to patreon.com/intheroud, and you can sign up for either £5 or £10 per month and receive regular bonus content as well as the entire back catalogue of bonus episodes. That's patreon.com/intheroud. In the Roud is a media partner of Veteran, the traditional music label. Although this week's song does not currently feature on any of their releases, you can find details of their extensive catalogue on their website, veteran.co.uk. One last huge thanks to this week's guest, Helen Lindley. Join me next week for episode 6. We'll be joined by Helen Lindley once again as we look at Roud 66, which is Child Ballad 109. That's a song called Tom Potts. Another unknown child ballad, hence why Helen's back to dive into the song's history and to provide a new setting of the song too. Until then, that's it from me. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the Roud.